Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to the March meeting in Parish Council. Just to remind everybody, the meeting's been recorded and broadcast live. I think we should be all right, but I just thought to point out that there's been other parish councils where things have been taken out of hand because members of the council couldn't be seen. People were pretending to be members of the council, dressed up in cardboard boxes, holding banners up behind and we had in one parish council meeting, there was over several hundred present. So nobody could see who was voting for who or whatever. But Denise and myself take the view that if you're not a member of the council and the meeting is taking place, and we will, if the meeting requires it, we will remove those people from the Zoom meeting because they're still free to see the meeting on YouTube. So please make sure that you can also be seen yourself as a person, so that we know that you haven't been usurped by somebody else, which has happened. In several cases, the chairman of a meeting was actually taken over by somebody else. So that would be very, very difficult. Okay, so I think with technology, we're getting a little bit better with it now anyway. So anyway, move on to the next item.
The speech is better than last night.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I just remind you, Doug, that you're not a member of the council and you can only speak during the portion that's time that's allocated for that.
As if I didn't know.
Yeah, I know. Well, just remember, there's lots of people watching this, not just us in the room at the moment. So next item is acceptance for apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Denise?
Yes, we do. We've got quite a few tonight, actually. We've got Sarah, unfortunately, is poorly and does not feel well enough to come to the meeting. Phil has had a family bereavement and is also not up to coming. Linda is in a family situation and can't attend. Nigel is ill and Rob is working nights.
Okay, so presume we all will accept those apologies. Next item is parishioners' concerns. Have we got any concerns from members of the public that they'd like to raise?
Yes, I have.
Thanks, Doug.
What progress, if any, with regard to the heavy transport? It's at the moment, it seems to be getting worse. I saw a vehicle last night that was, it was that long, it had got lights all the way down the edge of it. It was unusual.
It is on the agenda in two places tonight, Doug. So I think we've had a member of the public write in, and I think it's got some photographs as well of the situation right opposite you, in fact. And we've got where you live, should I say. And I think there's other progress as well. So it does appear on the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
I didn't realise it was on the agenda. I just meant it.
Yeah, and I think it's it won't go away as the right is the response from the council, I think.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other matters that want raising? Phil, have you got anything? No.
No. Okay.
Okay. So next thing then is district councillors report, item 4. So we've got one district council with us tonight, and that's Joe. Have you got anything to report there, Joe?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So yeah, regarding district council's report, I'll just open by saying that our new district council hardship grant has recently opened up. So that is for many local businesses who weren't eligible for some of the previous grants that we've issued with government funding at the district council. The hardship grant particularly targets people who might have a business that's based at home or might be self-employed, so that we can ensure that we reach those businesses that haven't been able to get a grant so far, because we appreciate that businesses are really struggling out there. And if you are one of those businesses who hasn't had a grant yet and is struggling to meet the criteria, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me direct, and I will connect you up with our team, and we'll be able to sort you out, hopefully with a grant, because we're trying to make sure we reach every local business we can locally during this difficult period. The other thing I just wanted to mention, Obviously, I know at the last meeting we discussed Marshes Hill Common quite a lot, and I agreed that I would go away and I would speak to our district council officers regarding the country park site and the damage that has been done by some tractors or vehicles. Now, we've been to look at the site, myself and Mark Priest have. I walked up from Endon a few weeks ago, just after the meeting, and what we're doing is along the side of the road where that damage has been caused, we're going to have some bollards put there. Those will be done any day now if they haven't been done already. So hopefully that'll help to resolve the matter. But if it does get worse, we will do it at both ends of the damage. But we'll just have to wait and see whether this first set does the trick. And whilst we were there, we went around the whole site and we did a site inspection to obviously look at the wider site. And we were discussing the fact that obviously for Marshes Hill Common, when COVID restrictions allow, we do want to officially launch the Friends of Marshes Hill Common group that we've spoken about in the past. And there's also a possibility that one idea that I've got is we might want to consider extending that to also cover Narpesley Reservoir in cooperation with the county council, because then that country park will also have some volunteers to do conservation work there. So that's something we can discuss the future meeting in detail if we can possibly put it on the agenda as like a discussion item. Yeah, and the litter picking network's going well. Lots of parts of Brown Edge are being litter picked on a regular basis. Over the weekend, I did Sands Lane and some of the country lanes down to Narpesley Reservoir, down Judgefield Lane, particularly bad for fly tipping, particularly down Tong Lane. So if everyone can keep an eye on that, I'd be really grateful, because Tong Lane, I've never seen so much litter down one country lane before, and it was absolutely disgusting. So we've just got to keep an eye on that, because there's a lot of beer cans and other things. So just if everyone can keep an eye on that, I'd be really grateful, and just let me know if it builds up again, and we'll get some volunteers down there to do it. I just also wanted to mention, I obviously keep in regular contact with our local policing team. They've agreed to keep a closer eye on Marshes Hill and the country lanes, because I've said there's been all these problems of litter and fly tipping, and obviously there was that damage at Marshes Hill, and over the weekend we were inundated with loads of visitors down there. So the police are going to keep a close eye on it over the coming weeks. Yeah, I also wanted to mention the fact that at the district council we passed our budget last week. I'm very pleased to say it got overwhelming support, and yeah, and obviously that sets in place our council tax rate and obviously our priorities for the coming year, which are obviously focused on supporting the local economy and helping local businesses and people recover from the pandemic, and obviously on things like improving leisure facilities as well. So that's obviously great news. And two other very quick things. The district council passed a notice of motion recently to call on the government to introduce an outright ban on the burning of peatlands. The government has now introduced a partial ban, so they have listened to what we've said, so I'm very pleased about that, but we'll continue pushing for an outright ban so we can protect peatlands from being burnt in future. And then finally, obviously Keith will talk probably in more detail about this, but the Staffordshire Moorlands constituency at the end of last week had the 8th highest vaccination rate in the country, which I think is something we should be blooming proud of. You know, all our fantastic volunteers who've worked really hard to get lots of our local people vaccinated. So I think we should be very proud of that locally. But obviously we've got to keep going, you know, light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not there yet. So that's all my updates, unless anyone has any questions.
Oh, sounds very, very good. Sorry, Karen. Karen, you're on mute. That's it.
Sorry. Jem, I was just wondering about Sunday afternoon. There was no police about down at Narpesley. There was at least 60 cars all parked on yellow lines. There was a big, massive queue down the road into the road off the ice cream van. and it was absolutely, it was ridiculously busy.
It
The
was
car
ridiculous,
park
yeah.
must have also been full to capacity, because it was all the way down from Knipersley End and from Brown Edge End, all the way down.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, that's when I was litter picking. That's how I'm aware of it, because I was litter picking down Judgefield Lane and the cars were coming, you know, both ends of the lane. It was absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen so many cars down that lane before. It was very dangerous for walkers. I mean, obviously, I made the police aware of it on Sunday and they have kept an eye on the situation. But what I was going to ask was, could the parish council possibly also write to the police to back up what I've said, so that we both tackle it from both ends and keep the pressure on the police to keep an eye on the situation? Is that something that maybe the parish council, the clerk, could maybe do?
Yeah, in fact, Joe, I was going to bring it up under any other business at the end, because I've had lots of complaints about the mess that they're leaving behind down there. And obviously you've been litter picking, so you've seen it firsthand. I've not been down, but people today were on the phone to me saying it's just absolutely disgraceful. And I think this is not just, in a way, what else do we expect when we aren't allowing people to travel more than 5 miles? So we've got a large conurbation right next door to us. So it's inevitable that it's going to get, hammered by people, isn't it? And I'm really glad we've got it as Knipersley Pool. I'm really glad we've got it, but it is causing problems in the short term, isn't it?
Oh, it's causing huge problems. And as I was litter picking, I did speak to a number of local people who were out walking along the country lanes, and they made a point of saying that they were pleased that obviously people were litter picking, but they said they were disgusted at how many people were out and about, not abiding by the government national guidelines, and people just crowding in. And obviously, I appreciate people are really struggling with mental health. They want to get out, totally get that. But nobody should be exercising outside their local area. Nobody should be traveling in a car to exercise. The government rules are very clear about that. And we cannot be complacent at this crucial stage now. We're doing really well, but we cannot let our guard down. We really can't.
Would it not be an idea to have bollards that, cones put all the way down, because they were all on yellow lines?
Do we know that they're outside the area?
You shouldn't,
If there's 60 cars down there, there could be 60 people from Brown Edge driven down.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening, to be honest with you.
It doesn't matter. They shouldn't be on the aisle. They shouldn't have gone in the car, should they?
I don't think there's a rule. That's very interesting.
You've got an elderly relative that can't walk that far for them up the set, and they fancy
it wasn't. There wasn't that many elderly. I didn't see that many elderly at all. It was families with a couple of kids.
I don't think this is the appropriate forum for that. Okay, for discussing that. I think it is confusing. We've been told we shouldn't travel more than 5 miles or outside the parish. I do know that there were people from inside the parish who were down there with the car. So it's very, very difficult for the police to manage this. And, I take my hat off to them even attempting to do it. And it's very confusing for people as well. And not everybody has got the same kind of fortitude as I've been able to stay at home. I find it very difficult, but other people need to be out. And I think that's very difficult for us to stipulate one thing or the other. However, it's causing problems. So I do think we should write and ask the police to just keep an eye on it, really. And basically, it was dangerous. That was my concern more than anything else. It was dangerous.
It was dangerous.
Yeah. And I understand
maybe a little child being in October or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think there's like 26,000 people in that parish of Biddle for something like that. There's a large amount who could feasibly be there. So it's very difficult, isn't it? So I think we ought to write to the police, just ask them to pay particular attention to that, and also to Marshes Hill as well, for the same reason.
Definitely.
And we'll support you on that, and we will make that happen, I think. Denise, yeah.
Peter, I just wanted to let you know Jane's struggling to get back in. She's had internet issues. She's just let me know she's struggling to get back in, but she will if she can.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
And Chair, could I just finally say, if there's anybody out there that wants to get involved in the Brown Edge litter picking army and wants to particularly help with litter picking the country lanes because of the stuff we've just discussed, please contact me direct. We'd be more than happy to welcome new people to get involved in the efforts.
Okay, that's good. It is working well, Joe, and I'm very grateful for the work you're doing. I'm sure the whole of parishes, because you know there's more litter picking taking place now than there's ever been, and that's great. So you know, it's a feather in your cap, chap, because it's you that's done that. So well done.
Thank you.
So thanks for that, Joe. We move on now to Keith.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, bit of a strange one this evening. Seems to be not much going on, but in fact, it's like a surreal swan where you look really calm on the top, but you're pedaling like mad underneath, and you don't quite know where you're going to end up. Yeah. Just coming back on that little subject, I do think that there's a car park consultation that's out there at the moment, which does affect all the car parks. So I think that that's something you could definitely bring up as a parish council. I requested when I attended the Staffordshire Moorlands car park consultation that parish councils and particularly rural car parking was put on the agenda very firmly, because at the meeting we mostly discussed the 3 towns, and I had to sort of stick me oar in and say, what about the parishes? And I think this gives a prime example, I think, Joe, the cabinet member and everything else, of what needs to happen during that consultation, because we generally get ignored, and at weekends the town car park's empty and the rural ones tend to fill up. So I think we do need to put something on that one. And then also with the green infrastructure plan and the route systems that myself, Adrian and others are all looking at the moment, I do think that's another key part of this, where people don't need to take their cars out. We need to start promoting other ways that people can travel to these locations, and that will then also reduce the hazard. And I don't think this is going to go away. Yeah, I don't think this idea of because of the lockdown, I think it's going to be many years, almost a decade, before things go anywhere near like back to normal, whatever normal might be from now on. But anyway, yeah. So that's my comments on that. So apologies for that if I don't get time to do anything else. I'm going to start with COVID. So just very briefly, things haven't changed that much. The vaccination is still going at a fair old rate, as I think you all are aware of. There's still winter support funds and schemes for food and heating. And then there's lots of different useful resources. The 5 or 6 steps out of lockdown has been published. And I'm not going to go through them here, but there's about between 25 and 30, all the blue markers here are different resources that are now available for people to isolation and all these translations, South African variants, all the information that you want is on the NHS website. And as I say, it even goes down to the social media fraud that's happening out there and everything else that seems to be proliferating. So, as I say, there's an awful lot to do with COVID at the moment. One slight negative, this is what I wanted to try and get over tonight, is that everything to now has been going downwards since the peak in January. Unfortunately, there's some areas where things are going up. Yep. And there's a small area in Tamworth where things are getting the infection rates going up. Now, the south, if you remember, is where it triggered and then sort of wave came up from there again. And that's also where the South African variant was as well. So I'm just ringing little alarm bells and things like that. Over the next 3 weeks, if we don't plateau or if we start going up significantly, then the step 2 after step A and step 1A and step 1B, which confuses me, there's 2 steps in step 1. Step 2 and step 3 might be delayed even further until we get back to some sort of stable environment. So if I can just, get that out there as Joe started with, keep apart, keep distance, don't start spreading it. My wife's school where she worked, 4 people came down with it over the weekend. Yep. And they haven't even got the children back yet. So, it is still out there. And we need to make sure that the R rate is pushed right down. Even if you've had your own first vaccine, it's still dangerous. So please take that on board. So I'll stop at that point because there's so much information about COVID, which I've been plugging away at for something else. And I am proud, the same with Joe, that we've done really well at vaccinations. That's something that's been going very, very well across here. And So if you've got any questions at all with COVID, any of you, then please ask now.
We're all okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I think Keith's making a really good point there about we are actually at a very difficult point right now. Yes, the headline figures say it's going down 30, but I use the COVID tracker here, and I fill my fourth tracking thing in every day. And it says in the moorlands, there's just been a sudden surge up. And this usually, from what I've seen, this COVID tracker, because it goes off symptoms of people, it's usually about a week and a half to 2 weeks ahead of the government figures. So we aren't out of the woods yet. We could start to see it rise. And I'm worried about that because, as Keith says, everything's predicated on it going down. And I think that's a concern, because if this thing extends in even more, I don't know what what some businesses will do.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for that, Peter. Yeah, I mean, I must say that the areas around Caverswell and Warrington, which is right next to Brown Edge, that is the highest infection rates within the moorlands themselves. Yeah. And the rest of the moorlands is very low. So, as I say, just people have got to be very careful, and we've got to try and make sure, particularly when the children go back, that things are stable as much as we can do, and we keep apart. Yeah. And God forbid when we get to the second stage and people can go out in groups of 6 after what happened last weekend everywhere. It wasn't just at Knifersley Pool, it was at every single park in virtually everywhere, because the weather was nice and it was nice and warm. So everyone went out. On to other matters. The obviously testing and everything else is still going on. So can I just advise people to test if they're uncertain, or if they're at work, communicating with people? There's an active travel fund consultation at the moment, and this is not to get confused with other funding. I've got to explain that tomorrow night at another meeting. And it's about walking, cycling improvement schemes, but they're in the major towns only. So I think Adrian might be interested to have a look at that. The original sum was 31 million, and it's now been added to by another 1.8 million. And the schemes are in Burton, Cannock, Newcastle, Underline, Stafford, and I think there's a few other, Tamworth and one other major town. So I think that's Stafford itself, yeah. So if you want to have a look at that, I think, Adrian, that might be something for you to link into the major towns. It might be something worth having a look at, and particularly the Biddulph Valley Way. I've got some news I can't tell you guys now, but next meeting I might be able to. There's also an awful lot about IT training and lots of facilities about that, and I'll come on to that. That's under libraries, it's under other different areas as well. And the idea is that for anyone that wants to, not just COVID related, but anyone that might want different skills in the future, is that there's lots of training now available. We've mentioned the COVID response for winter, and it's free digital skills. It's Staffordshire Adult Community Learning Service. If anyone is interested in trying to come online, I think it's delivered through the laptop. So I think the first thing you have to do is be able to switch one on. But anyway, I'll let you understand that one. So that's something that's pretty good. The Support Staffordshire, they're called the Volunteer Star Awards. I think I mentioned last time. Bit more detail now. You've got the closing date on the 30th of March. There's 10 different awards that you can do. That's run by as I say, Support Staffordshire at the County Council. If you want to see those, I'll give you a read. The Volunteering Support for Young People, Trustee of the Year, New Volunteer Team of the Year, and Volunteer of the Year, and Lifetime Achievement. So there's quite a few, 10 different categories. So if you've got anyone that you want to enter into that, please do so. Talk Suicide. There's a big launch that only just happened after Council and Cabinet this week. How do you support the campaign and everything else? You can go online. It's hashtags Talk Suicide. There's all different types of social media that's available at the moment. My colleague who works for Samaritans and everything else took it away as well, because there's lots of different centres around, and it's everyone needs to know about it. So there's a big push on that. There's some training lessons. Now that's the thing that I think some of you might be interested in. 600 spaces available from May onwards, and you can book those training sessions for awareness on suicide. Okay. Libraries. I'll just mention everything's online at the moment. The only main libraries open, there's one in each district, and ours is in Leek. Everything else is online. There's the World Book Day on the 4th of March, Pet Star, 200 million words at one time, Burrow Box, British, and the big thing this time is the British Science Week. And there's lots of online different things from radio presenters and TV presenters, free speeches, talks, everything else, speeches, talks. And there's also the IT telephone support services, which is the same service that we use, the County Council, is now being made available online on the same phone number. So you better not have any IT problems when I do. Okay. Reading Friends, quiz time, Every Mind Matters, etc., etc. So hopefully that will keep quite a lot of people interested. And then, as I say, the reading one as well by telephone. What matters as well? So that's keeping yourself fit, stay at home, national lockdown, how to try and keep yourself fit during that. And what was the other one on that one? Testing. Yeah. So make sure that before you go out, and if you're going to interface with anyone, make sure that you are as safe as you can be. And I think that will come more into line next Monday, when children themselves are going to have to start running their own tests and everything else after they've been trained to do it. There was a little bit about the 111 service, and there's still some issues about trying to get the different community hospitals up and running and providing community services in there. Unfortunately, I missed because I had a few IT problems myself this afternoon. I missed the health committee, so it was a bit disappointing on that one. And today, COVID support, what's I talking about then? Oh no, that's the same thing as I had beforehand. And I think that's it. Oh, and the CCGs are coming together. That was the other thing. So there's consultation. At the moment in Staffordshire, there's 6 separate CCGs that are providing all the health services. And there's quite a lot of work at the moment that are going to come to bring those 6 together. To whether they become 1 or 2, I don't know. And then finally, DHP, we had the meeting last Saturday. Thank you very much for those who attended that meeting. We came away with 4 different subjects: Huff Hill, Sandy Lane, High Lane, school signs, and one, I can't remember what the other one is, but anyway, I sent an email straight after the meeting, or virtually after the meeting, to the Highways department. I haven't had the response, surprise, surprise, with a 3 days turnaround. But I will keep pushing on that. And as soon as I get a response back, I'll send it out to Denise, who can then send it round to the rest of you. It's quite important, and I will push very hard, but this comes into the parish assembly as well, believe it or not. So make sure we've got a response in good time for us to respond back before the end of March, because that's the year end, and that's when the DHP monies are sort of set in stone for this past year. Parish assembly has now been agreed, and I don't know whether you've been notified yet. I haven't seen anything go out myself, but that's on the 25th of March. They delayed it a week because the Environment Steering Group, I think it's Joe's fault. He put it. No, it's okay. So Joe's steering, or not, it's Joe's, it's the steering group for environment at SMDC on the Thursday before. That was going to be the original date. So it's during PERDA. They've allowed us to have it during PERDA, but it's a closed meeting, Peter, as you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not a public meeting. But the issue, the one on that, is going to be highways, I hope. So a long way around, got there in the end. Okay. So Peter, if you and one other from the other group or whatever, you could be at that meeting.
Yeah, sure.
And push it. What I'm trying to do is to get a side chat room so that for an hour and a half, parish councils can go off in 1s and 2s. They'll be talking to the highways while we're going through all the updates as we normally do, which is some of the subjects I've just mentioned. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Done. Oh,
thank you
part
very
of the
much.
environment. Sorry, environment grant. I'm working with Denise. Haven't quite included it yet. I've got until tomorrow to sort this out, but you might end up with another 50 quid if you're lucky.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yep.
From the 350 to 400, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway,
Excellent.
right.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Next item is item 6, which is declaration of interests. You'll notice that Phil Wood was going to talk to us about the wall, but he's not in attendance, so we don't have to declare his pecuniary interest in that item. And I don't think there's anything else. Anybody else got anything? There's nobody else that got any pecuniary interests or material interests. So next item is item 7, approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. You've all had a copy of the minutes. Can I sign them as a true record, please? Okay, thank you. I will do that. Thank you very much. Next item is matters arising from previous minutes. This is Appendix 1, Highways Working Group Report. So this is we had a meeting. I don't think we've got a formal report here, Denise, have we? Written report. No, but we had a meeting, which is what Keith was referring to then. And one of the key things that we were looking for the council's, well, parish council support was to do a survey, a traffic survey down High Lane. So that's a speed survey. And also, if we can, a traffic survey to determine which is the most used route in the in between Sandy Lane and Hoff Hill. So I think we've seen there was a member of the public wrote to us about and sent me some photographs of a car that had turned over down High Lane because of speed. A member of the public's also sent me a video of him traveling at, I think it was 31 mile an hour up High Lane, and the car merrily overtook him at, I don't know what speed that was. That's right at the narrowest bit on High Lane coming into Brown Edge.
Was it me? Was it Pete?
No, it wasn't, because if it was you, I'd have to speak to you, Neil. But yeah, it was, and I don't think, you know, you've got to be really stupid to do what this guy did. But it's on evidence, it's there. And you know, so we've got, as we've known all along, we've got a major speed issue there. So we want some evidence to help Keith in, you know, really in his case to get someone. The only thing we could do there, because, you know, you wouldn't be able to put speed bumps on the road, I suspect, but there are all other sorts of traffic calming and also enforcement. So it may well be that way. And I don't think, you know, there's much appetite for getting the police in, but when you've got idiots like that going at that speed, then we have to get enforcement, because 30 mile an hour is the speed there. So we're looking for the council really to decide whether we should undertake traffic surveys in those two areas or not. And I think there will be some expenditure there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but Keith will come back to us when we know exactly, or we'll know exactly how much that is. And I think Keith's looking to be able to raise funding for it as well.
Can I come in at that point?
Yeah, sure, of course you can.
Sorry. What they allow me to do at the moment is just a very basic travel survey. I don't think it will necessarily cover speed. I'm not sure. But each time they do it for a 2-week period, and it's about £500 per location where they do this survey work, where the cable goes across, the 2 cables go across, and there's a box put at the side of the road. The issue that we have at the moment, well, not interestingly, but because we're in lockdown, the information that you're going to get from that is not going to be the information that probably you do need to support any further work. And that's going to be the trickiness of this at the moment. So what I'm looking for at the moment is for them to say that they guarantee that funding is available over the coming months and, you know, into the autumn if things get back to normal, so that the survey can be done to support the fact that people are speeding up there. And the average speed and things like that is what comes back from it. But what we did with the other one down Clay Lake and Breach Road, which is, I know you're aware of, was successful in the end, was that we did actually do some eyes on, and we created a survey report, a sheet, which people could actually fill in themselves. And they could then actually sort of just monitor rush hour times, things like that. I wouldn't do more than an hour. But the idea being, what happened at the other one was that it was just the number of children that was using the crossing in the evening, in the morning, how many near misses there were, and all the rest of it. So the idea was that they had some actual, you know, eyeboard information as well as the other thing. So that's something that I think would support what you're trying to do. But it's the question of just how to format that and make that all work. Now, I think we did talk at the meeting, Peter, didn't we, about possibly the parish council, with my assistance, potentially bringing in someone to look at the safety issues. Yeah, I think that's what we discussed, wasn't it? And I think that's what you're asking about now, isn't it? So I'll shut up. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So one of the things that we discussed was there are professional people out there who would be able to make judgments about the safety of particular areas of road, and it's like independent. I mean, it's all well and good us saying we need something done down Sandy Lane, which I don't think anybody on this council would refute. But having an independent specialist person to look at that would, I think, be very useful as well. And that ties in to there's other stuff at the hilltop as well, because Sandy Lane suffers also from the large wagons coming down. And for the life of me, I struggle to understand why a wagon would come down Half Hill and then turn left and go across towards Leek at the end of the junction there. It just seems really strange that when they could be going down Broad Lane. I don't know, or it may well be that they can't turn to get into Broad Lane. I don't know. I don't understand, but that's where we need some advice on that, because that then feeds back to the wagons going down Clearlow's Bank past Tugs there. So having an independent traffic consultant looking at this would be worthwhile, depending on how much it would cost, of course, and how much support we can get from Keith Furthy's fund to support this kind of work. So I think if the council would like to pursue that and all those things, then I think the next stage for us is to go down the route and making those things happen, either by getting funds or approaching people to find out what we're doing. But at the moment, that's the recommendation from the committee. Bearing in mind, we've got one other thing to talk about later on in the meeting from the letter from the member of the public. So quite a few things there, but I think what we need to be doing is getting some evidence is the best way to describe it for all the things that we have been worried about. Have we got any views from other members of the committee, or on people who turned up? It isn't a committee, remember, it's a working group. Or have we got any members of the parish council who've got any comments on what we should do?
Well, we did on the meeting, we did just discuss gathering evidence, didn't we, locally from, as well as trying to get the survey.
Yeah. And I think that's the baseline, isn't it, Karen? I think, well, if we could get evidence for ourselves, that's great, because we may not be able to get funding for other things.
Yeah.
So I think that's the baseline. We need to try and understand, certainly for the junction down Sandy Lane, we're able to do that. I think judging the speed of traffic coming up from Norton Green, I think we need some kind of equipment to be able to do that. So that's where we aren't able to do that by independent means. We need to get somebody else to do that for us. So any other comments?
Adrian's got his hand up, Pete.
Sorry, beg your pardon, Adrian. Yeah.
Adrian's got his hand up.
Yeah, you're on mute, Adrian. There you go.
Sorry, yeah, the whole thing, following on from the meeting, which was interesting, the whole situation around heavy traffic and traffic that is travelling too fast. We do need to do something about it. And if we've got to gather the data, then we should do that, I think. Just it's to support what you've already said. Again, this week on Sunday, I nearly got wiped out at the bottom of Sandy Lane, something coming down there extremely fast again.
Yeah.
And, it's only going to be a matter of time before one of these big bits of kit hits one of these small bits of kit that's airborne, and we're going to be, we've talked about it. I think we just need to decide how we move it forward now.
Mm.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's just, it's shocking. It really is. And if you're Karen sitting there watching it happen outside your house, it must be very difficult. Denise.
Pete, it was suggested that the clerk wrote to the HGV companies, and that was going to be brought before the council to decide.
That's right. Yeah, that was the other thing. What we thought was an immediate thing that we could do instead of just waiting would be to write to the main the main one that we see is Bassett's wagons coming through the village. they're starting to come through now with the lights flashing, so they might be aware that there's an issue coming into the village. I don't know, but we could just write to them and ask them to go somewhere else because it's dangerous, which is a starting point. And at least we've done something then. It's something we can do without having to wait. And I think that would be advantageous, Karen.
I have passed the transport manager's email address on.
Yep. Yep. So all we really need to make that happen is for the council to agree that we're right. And I think we ought to do that quite simply by showing hands, really. Are we all in favour that we're right to the Bassets to ask for them to refrain from coming through the village? Yep. It's okay. So that's unanimous. We'll do that. That's an easy one to tick off. The other things then about doing the survey, should we try and organise a group of local people on Sandy Lane? I think would be preferable, really, to do some analysis of where the traffic's coming from, so that we can then perhaps help any other work that we do in the future. Would that be? We can. That's something we can make happen very quickly and very relatively easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Karen's in favour. Sorry, Keith. Yeah.
Yeah, my advice is from what happened at the other end in Endon, but with you guys supporting what they did at Endon.
Yeah.
When they got an advisor in, there was a fixed fee for, I think it was something like 5 or 6 days work or something. They looked at, a bit like here, he looked at 4 or 5 different safety issues, which resulted in 2 of them being resolved and the other 3 more or less staying as they were because they were on the main road. But yeah. Obviously, there's still evidence, though, in the pipeline to support any future elements that might occur there. What he did, though, was that he came forward with a format for the information, which was then going to be acceptable by highways. So I think before you dive in the deep end, and I'm not saying don't get people to start looking at doing what they want to do, and the issues are by all means do that. But I think the first stage would be to get some advice as to what type of information that people want, because the information you need at Sandy Lane, Huff Hill, is probably slightly different to the information that you may need, as you've mentioned yourself, along High Lane. So it's a question of getting the right type of survey work done at each location to indicate and to prove what you need to improve safety. Okay, so I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think what we perhaps ought to do there is, if we can get in touch with the people who did the work over at Broad Lane there, that would, I think the people who actually did I can't remember, the specialists who did the work, if we can make contact with them, I think that would be helpful. Do you think we should do that? Yeah. Yeah. And I think then we'd have a proper. The guy that actually did the work then is now retired. But that's right. There's others out there that will do the similar sort of work, and there's certain planners that you might know that might be able to help you out with knowing who might be able to assist. Yeah. So Denise knows who that is. So you can speak to Anna, the planner. She knows somebody. Okay. So I think that's about as much as we can do with that, really. The key thing really is not to let it drop, isn't it, and see what the response we get back from people. I think that's the next thing. If we need to have another working party, I think we should do that. This is something that we shouldn't let drop, really. And I'm really concerned about the speed into Brown Edge. I'm very concerned about that. I've got to tell you. Having dropped leaflets off down there, well, it's probably about 4 months ago now. It's absolutely unbelievable because there wasn't much traffic. The speed has increased unbelievable. So, okay. Anything else that we want to ring up on that? Any members of the committee or the working group want to think we should be doing anything else? No, we all okay with so far? Yeah. And we'll keep it on the agenda, not let it drop. Okay, next item then is the Chapel Lane potholes. Just a report from the clerk.
Sorry for the delay there. Yeah, I've uploaded the photographs that the member of public sent to me, and so I've reported on the SCC website. Just wanted to update everybody that's been done.
Okay, that's all we can do on that. Cemetery wall repair, report by Councillor Woodward. I've not been up to have a look to see if it's been done or not. I was expecting Phil to be with us tonight, but obviously he's otherwise occupied at the moment. And so I'm not sure if it's been done. Has anybody spotted if it's been done or not? No.
Image what? I've got an image what Phil sent to me. I'll just
Okay.
bring that up on screen. Sorry, it's a little bit small. Sorry for the delay. There
Okay.
it is.
Okay, so he's actually done it. Okay, so it's repaired. Okay, so we'll have to see how we go with that and see whether it moves again. That's the only concern that I've got in case it moves. So, but still, at least it's got to stop the water from getting in now. That's the main thing at the moment, isn't it? So, okay, so next item then is Leonard Drive street sign damage. Just to report again.
Yeah, that's just another report that's been reported to SMDC for street sign.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So that's been reported.
Okay, and the next one is village post box information. And I think, as it says there, we haven't received anything back from the Royal Mail or the post office counters, as it's called. So that's matters arising. So resolution still being pursued. I think we got the appendix there. Okay, there's some things that are active there, which we're going to talk about in a bit later on. But there's quite a lot there that we can talk about later on. We still notice that the hooping wall clear blocked culvert has been reported to the county. That's nothing been done with that. So there's quite a lot there that we've got reports as we go along. There's nothing that we've got to take off yet, I don't think. Okay, so all those things, as far as I can see, are going to be discussed and nothing's going to be taken off. So hopefully next month we'll be taking stuff off.
We've missed the meadow, wildflower meadow.
No, that's on next. Item F,
Yeah.
wildflower meadow. That's the next thing. Okay, so just to report, our normal contractor, Council Rowing, is just completely inundated with work at the moment, and he's also got people off with COVID, etc. So, which is causing a lot of stress at work department. So he did suggest to me to try and find somebody else who'd be able to do it. So I thought a little while, and after being prompted by somebody, I thought about Jack Proctor, who's starting up doing contracting, and as a young lad, and I thought I'd give him a call to see if he was be able to do it for us. He's told me he would be able to do it. He'd be able to scratch the grass off and cart it away. So we haven't got the grass problem like we've got at the moment. So to be completely bare. And then, well, to be honest with you, I'll sow the seed if we have to. It's only a matter of scattering it, rough scattering it. And we'd be away. I asked him how much he wanted for that. And he said £250, which I've spoken to another couple of people who are in the agricultural kind of job, and they suggest that that's about the right price for it. So we've also the seed. Denise has got the quantity of seed that I've calculated for it and ready to order. It's, how much was it, Denise?
Can I just give me a minute and I'll find that bill, because that's on the finance one. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
I think it came to about £650 for the seed.
Yeah.
But I'll just check that.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's roughly 650. We've already estimated it's going to be about £1,000. I think we're going to get a grant for it as well. So I think, and it didn't compromise you there at all. So So we're well in with the amount, which then also we've also got to take into account that we've got to mow it again come August time, late in the season, not the normal time when they take grass, but late in the season, like old-fashioned haymaking time, like in the old days. The seed is a dual type seed. So in other words, it's got some annual, and also this yellow rattle, which slows down the grass growing, but it's also got perennials. So it's the first year we will see some flowers, but it'll only come to the fore in the second year, really, when the perennials start to bloom. So it's proper. It's for exactly that type of ground as well. So you can get different types of mixes. So Denise, yeah.
Price was £658.99, and that's for
Yeah.
6 kilos of seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be able to do it for the amount. Neil, yes.
If you're sowing the seed, Pete, I'll bail in with that as well if you want.
It only takes a couple of us. You know, I don't think we even need a fiddle for it, to be honest with you, Neil. I think it just is one like broadcasting. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we all in favour with asking Jack Proctor to do this work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully, he said he'd be able to get onto it in the next couple of days. So that's because he can get on the ground at the moment, which is why I was keen to bring it tonight. Which is it's been dreadful, hasn't it? But he's just about okay. He's had a look and he's just about okay to get on it now. So we'll be able to get that done, and then that'll be one thing knocked off. And
Peter,
also,
can I just mention? Sorry, butting in. Can I just mention that I've applied for £350 from Keith's Climate Fund towards wildflower seed, and Keith's just said tonight that he can perhaps upgrade that to 400. Is that right?
Yeah, it's hoping.
Possibly. Okay. Well, there's an application pending.
Okay, so I think that's a good job. Good job done if we manage to get it done. So, okay. So we're going to ask Jack to do that, and later on Denise will be asking for approval to purchase the seed as well. Although we've agreed it in total, she's got to put the invoice through because she's got to pay for it on a card. So we need to approve it tonight, and it will arrive next day as well. It's next day delivery. So, okay. So next thing then is report and actions of parish councils undertaking business and actions on behalf of the council. So item A here is junction of Sitch Road and Brown Hills Road. Got a report here, I think, from Adrian.
Yeah, so we were asked by a resident if we could provide some flower tubs. What I did was rescued one from the ones that we put in at the bottom of Chapel Lane, just by Jen's, refurbished one, purchased another one along with the soil and some daffodils. And whilst Phil and I were doing that, we also tidied up all the stone troughs at the bottom of Bank End and put some daffodils into those as well. So all done. And I know Linda was kindly going to pay for this, but I was going to ask tonight if there's an opportunity for me to sponsor this. So I will cover the cost of this myself personally.
Okay. Well, that's very kind, actually. You don't come on the parish council to be necessarily funding it. To make that clear.
No,
but thank you. And I've got to say, Adrian, we've already had 2 emails in to the parish news about it. Don't know if you know about this, but they've people in the community are very supportive of what you've done.
No, well, that's nice, and it is at the bottom of the road that I live on. So no, I thought it would be nice to sponsor those, Peter.
Yeah. So good stuff. Thank you.
Hey, Adrian, Julie says they look a treat, by the way.
All right, good. Thank you. Yeah, and I've noticed today that people have been planting flowers in them as well, which is good. So they're serving the purpose they've been put in for, which is good.
Yeah, and I think just another thing here. I mean, I think it encourages other people to do stuff outside their house as well. I mean, it's very nice. I mean, we haven't really spoken about this, but Karen's work Karen's done down at the Sandy Lane well, people residents down there. Don't know if you've seen that, but it's all been done up again. Nice flowers in it. It was a treat last year. So it's very good when members of the community, and even better when your parish councils, of course, but you know, very good when members of the community support the village in this way, and lots of ways that actually we don't see all the time or don't take regard to. So I think this is good stuff, and if other members of the community could come out and do this, that would be helpful. And that's why I support so much what Joe's done with the litter picking, because people are doing their own community, and I think that's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah, we just at the weekend we changed Mark made some more troughs, and we filled them with daffodils. Now they're just sprouting now.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention it because I did spot it. I'd only go out occasionally at the moment, so I did spot it.
We only got little green shoots on.
Yeah, they'll be nice in a minute, just within a couple of days, won't they? Okay, so that's that. So next item, Hollybush progress. Okay, just on this, there's two items, two bits of information here on Hollybush. First is we have signed the confidentiality agreement on behalf of the whole council. So there's no choice about that. It wasn't an individual thing, it's the whole council. Okay, so we have signed that, and I'm not sure what further discussions have taken place with anybody or not, and I think Denise was trying to get in touch with our solicitor today for an update. I don't know if she's managed to do that or not, but we'll let you know as soon as we can if there's any further progress on that.
Sorry, he's not got back to me today.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that. And the second thing is for you to be aware of, for those of you that were listening to the budget today, very important part of the budget was that there's a 50% grant available. Now, they have to jump through some hoops here, but there is a 50% grant that's been made available for communities to save their pub. So especially geared at parish councils, not just individual groups as well. In the past, a lot of the funding's been for individual groups, but here it's like, and it's up to a maximum. No, this isn't exactly true. The normal is for 250, but it can go up to £1 million. Okay, so, but 250 would be 50%, so it's match funding. So that is quite exciting stuff for us, and we need to be making sure that we work with the district council, and I think our MP has to be involved as well to support it, to access this fund, because that is a major thing for us. If we can get, 50% funding for it, that all of a sudden makes this project way less worrying. I think that's the best way to describe it.
That's what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is good news, and we need to be, like I say, we need to be working with the district and Keith, and obviously, our MP. And I think I understand that she has to give approval for it, which is useful. So we're on the case with that. Next thing is cemetery notice board, repair or replace. I can tell you it's got to be replaced. Okay, we've had a joiner have a look at it, somebody who actually makes notice boards actually for amongst other things, and he just said there's nothing you can save off this at all. It's completely rotten. So we need some other kind of notice board going there. This is something that obviously our clerk has dug out and to be useful for us.
I've been gathering prices now. Shelley Signs, who make these signs, were actually going to send me a quote with the postage and the VAT included, but that's not arrived yet. So I'm sorry. It's this 4. You just wanted 4 A4 sheets, didn't you? So it's these prices here for A2 size.
Yeah. So
365 plus legs, 170 plus header, plus the balls. Even the balls on the top are 175. Plus postage plus VAT. So I'm sorry, I've just not got a final price. I don't know if you want to review, come back to this at the next meeting. I've got another quote as well from this company, which is KBS Depot. This one's a bit cheaper.
That's the one.
I've got to say, it looks a bit cheap though, doesn't it, compared to the other one? But I feel a bit. I don't think the parish councils should pay £175 for a pair of balls.
I mean, I'm not going to touch that one, Pete.
No.
So yeah, and I have got another price from another online company, but again, when you actually delve into it, I did phone them all up, and they all wanted to send me accurate quotes. So. Yeah. Do you want to revisit this at the next meeting?
I think we should revisit it at the next meeting. Now we've made this, you know, if we've made the decision to go this route, I think this is the only way to do it, really. Unless you go for the really oak things, which cost over £1,000, which I think is isn't required. So that's my opinion. What does council feel? Do we feel we should just come to the next meeting with some prices of the similar kind of thing?
Yeah. What did we put in the budget for it?
We put up to £1,000 in the budget, I think,
Okay.
from memory, Karen. I might be wrong.
Am I right in saying we'll need two? One for the existing cemetery and one for the new one? Or are we just doing the old one at the minute?
Yeah, I think just the existing one.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment. I think we're 5 years away from getting, you know, for the other one. But we'll come back to that in a minute, because a good point that is, Neil. I've got to talk about that at some point tonight. Okay, so
is the notice board in the park that you're on about?
No, the cemetery.
Cemetery. Oh, the cemetery.
Yeah, cemetery. Yeah. Yeah, it's missing now. It's been taken away.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the next thing then is footpath and bridle. So sorry, just to be clear, at the next meeting, we're all in favour of Denise coming back with prices of that kind of notice board we've looked at tonight. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing is footway and bridleway improvement. Okay. Now this is a report by Councillor Felton and Wright. Now we did have a working group meeting to go through all this in detail. So if you weren't there, you missed it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think it's probably best to say, Peter, there's two pieces of work here, and
yeah,
I have to thank Karen tremendously for pulling me back into some kind of sense of order with it all, because I'd sort of gone off doing my own thing without the proper pathway numbering. And of course, we had a map with pathway numbering. So thank you, Karen. Both of the reports now relate to that. I think the first report we have for the signposts is probably the one that we can move on a little bit easier, Karen, isn't it? Because we've now got the condition of them. We know that we can contact the council to ask for replacements. And it was just today to see whether Denise will be able to do that with the signs. And I think that was something we needed to agree together from that perspective first.
Yeah.
And then secondly, there is the bigger report, the pathway condition report that, as you said, we ran through in detail. And there is some conclusions on the last slide of that. And I think probably rather than go through the whole thing or even try to summarize it again, it's probably better to look at the conclusions and next steps of what we do with that.
Yeah. So for those of you that haven't seen this, could I recommend that you do look at this in detail. It is the best piece of work that I've seen about this for ages. Well, in fact, we asked the Ramblers Association to do a report about 30 years ago, and they did a good report as well. But I tell you, it wasn't as good as this. So I think this is an excellent piece of work and be very useful for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and as I said, Peter, I am transferring some of the findings now for each pathway onto an Excel spreadsheet that we can load onto our website, where anyone then should be able to go in. If you've walked a path, go in and have a look, see if that current condition matches the condition in the report. And if there's something new there, then you can add it in, because this piece of work started probably around about October time.
Yeah.
So, you know, by the time you've got round every one of the paths, then things can and sometimes will have changed. But if we look at the paths, there are several of the pathways in poor condition in the area. One thing that, you know, becomes evident is that landowners do not always make access easy, but that's probably due to the fact sometimes as well that they don't know that access is required, or, you know, they don't know how difficult it is to navigate. And I think engagement with landowners for footpaths, for access, and as we move forward into try and get to green corridors put in place is absolutely key, and probably at the early stages. And what is the role post-COVID of footpaths? Because we have seen a huge uptake in this green travel, people walking in the local areas. And as we said earlier, will that disappear? And perhaps not. And it would be good if people did continue to walk and cycle in the way they have during lockdown. So bridleways and green cycle corridors, and a growth in active lifestyle coupled to sustainable transport may require some investment. And then we come to the tricky situation of how to repair and maintain the pathways, and what is the role of volunteer groups. And certainly when we get the chance to take some of you up to the Congleton Cloud when the restrictions are over, we can show you how Congleton Mountain Bike Club have worked with the National Trust to not only maintain the mountain bike trails, but also the walking paths. And it should be, as we said earlier, an ongoing live document that can be added to at any time. But we need to make recommendations from the report. And as we talked about, Peter, they could include the reinstatement of the Old Endon Road as a green corridor. And certainly another green corridor could be recommended via Knipersley. And we talked about that earlier, and it ties in nicely with trying to get people out of their car and giving them a choice of different travel modes to be able to get to and from the local beauty spot. So those are the conclusions, really.
Yep. Okay. So I think the first part of that was the work about the actual signage to the footpaths themselves. And really what we need the council to do is to agree for us to communicate with the footpaths officer, as it used to be called, I don't know what it is now, but at the county council to see what we can do to get these signs put right, is the right way to describe it, because they should all be sign marked. So I think that's the first thing. How do we do that? Does the council want us to do that? I presume the council would, if I get the feel for it, but is there anybody here at the meeting who feels that we shouldn't be approaching the county council, shall I put it that way, to get these things repaired and reinstated? I presume we're all in favour of doing that, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Speak now, forever hold your peace. So what we're going to do, I think, is we will make contact with the county about this list of things here. And I think if we, we'll ask perhaps Keith to effect a meeting with us, even if we have to do it online or something, to try and get some kind of progress here to get these things repaired and reinstated.
Yep. Can I come in there at this point?
Yes, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice here, so excuse me.
No, it's okay. You have a break. Basically, as they say in Star Trek, it's worse than that, Jim.
Yeah.
So what I would like to try and do, and this is a bit of a tricky one, because this is, as Adrian knows, something that he's working on for the whole of the Moorlands, and Joe knows that because he's been around what fits into the green infrastructure plan and everything else. I love the idea of even be able to walk or cycle between orchards, Joe. So you know, I mean, the route, you know, the world is nigh, as they say in the business. But you know, and pick your own fruit as you go. Never mind. No, I'm living in some halo somewhere. Anyway, in seriousness, believe it or not, I've had quite a lot of detailed conversations with other parishes in my own division and outside my own division as well. There's something I'm having to do tomorrow night, which I wasn't aware of and shouldn't be in the public domain, but someone forced it out, and I've got to try and repair damage tomorrow evening. There's some very big monies around at the moment to try and particularly link across potentially. If anyone speaks about it outside the meeting, I'll have to shoot you. No. But there's other projects. Let's just say that there's other projects in the near vicinity where there is finance that's going to be coming forth, as they say in the business. I will be able to tell you more as time goes on, or not, as the case may be, if it's after May.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I won't touch on that tonight, Peter. But anyway, but my idea is that we have a meeting with Bagnall Parish Council, because they have exactly the same thing with their bridle waves. And I've been asked actually only 3 days ago to push that forward with Paul Roachford and this team as well. I'm pretty sure those bridleways link up to the bridleways and footpaths and everything else that you're talking of, if not through Endon and Knipersley in particular. That's definitely the case there. And as I say, it even goes up further than that. And there's large amounts of project work, which I've been made aware of. And I'm trying to link all the officers together in relation to things further north. That's all I can say at the moment. So I recommend that at tomorrow night's meeting at Biddulph Town Council's Environment Committee, that I ask if Adrian's okay with this, for him to maybe attend the next environment meeting up there to let them know what he's been doing down here, if he's up for that. If you don't have to, it's not committing suicide.
No, that's fine. And if you actually look at the report, I've actually ventured out of Brown Edge as well, and there is some of the footpaths elsewhere that have. Well,
you keep mentioning Congleton, and there's a certain place beginning with B between the two, isn't there?
There is, yeah. There is.
So it makes sense, shall we say? Anyway, yeah. So, and also, I was hoping, and I'm sure Andrew's more or less hinted with me already, that as the weather's slowly improving, that perhaps Adrian and say one other parish councillor from Brown Edge, someone from Endon and someone from Bagnall, is maybe to have a quick chat and walk round some of the locations on a visit, sort of a day visit, to see which ones are the ones that people think would be the important ones to get upgraded and everything else. Andrew's from Bagnall is a bit of an expert in all this. He's been doing it for many years to help the highways, the footpath team to get things sorted. Okay, so are you okay for me to do those two things? If because I'm half nicking Adrian, if you see what I mean. I don't know whether.
Well, I think so long as we get something done with it, after all this work that's put in place, we need to making sure that things happen. That's right. All, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Aaron.
In terms of the signs, are you talking about the signs, Keith, or do they form part of this? Or
yes, it does. It does. I'll come on to that. I was. Sorry, I tend to go off a bit like Adrian. You have to keep pulling me down and putting my feet back on the ground. So basically, the signs, what they did in Bagnall in the end, they asked for a few, and he just offered them the new signs to put on existing posts and things like that. And the county council have got some stock of some of these smaller signs and footpath signs and things. If it's specific, I've got another problem here in along Park Lane. And they want the number of the footpath on them as well. Apparently, they don't come with numbers on them at the moment. And so there's a like with the notice board quotes and things. Some are more expensive than others, and some the county team are quite happy for you to take. And I think who was it last time? Was it Phil? Yes, he's not here. He managed to get some signs last time round, I think, and they were put up just over a year ago, was it, or something? I can't remember now. Yeah. But they have stocks of these things, you know.
Do we have to fit them ourselves?
Yes, the idea is that you put them up yourself. That's the idea. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even if the post is gone, Keith.
Yeah, there's a lot of
'Cause-
posts.
'cause
Well, you
some of
can-
these,
Yeah, you'll have to put your own posts up, and that might be the cost to you, not the sign, if you see what I mean. So
yeah, because
So, yeah,
I thought, sorry, Karen.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, the understanding I had that was if one of the signs had broken, that we just needed to report that sign as broken, the post, and you actually, or the footpath team, not you personally, Keith, the footpath team would come and reinstate one of those new wooden signs.
right.
Is that not the case?
If you want a speedy response, as I say with all these things, and I know Pete don't know what I'm going to say, get on with it yourselves. If it costs a bit on the old signage and stuff, there's a little bit of flexibility here. I have a thing called a DHP fund, which is what we're trying to approve all the surveys and everything through. They have on occasion, if I have any funding left over at the end of the year, allowed that to be spent on footpaths. Now, it's not strictly to cover footpaths, but obviously in rural areas, footpaths are and bridleways are a major element of the network. So they have let me do that before. And there is a whole review that's going to be happening after the election in terms of how DHPs, highways and everything else all work in relation to parishes and town councils. And I think it's going to end up in a much better situation, because I know it sounds strange, if the highways team use it with their rangers or get a contractor in, it costs a fortune.
Yeah.
If they pay you to do it under a contractor that's local or your own lensman, it can be far less expensive for the county if they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for it, and they are. So the idea is that we spread it, get a bit of more speed into it, and cost everybody a lot less money. If you see what I mean, that's the general idea.
So just to move on. So
basically, then, do we just go through the spreadsheet again, pick out the ones that are easily just to sign, get the small sign? How do we apply for those? Just write where the posts haven't gone.
Get Denise to write a letter on the ones you want with signage, and ask them what you want: arrows or little roundels or something like that, footpaths, or whatever else you want on those. Because I think there's 2 or 3 basic different types of ones. And then if there's anything to do with posts or anything like that, separate those out and give them another list of those. And they might be doing the work. For all I know, they've got a stye, they've got a repair somewhere in the vicinity, and can go and do another couple of posts on the same day. It won't be any skin off their nose, you see.
Okay.
Other times it might be that they're working in Cannock Chase or one of the larger parks, and they don't have any rangers or anyone else to come and maintain even the category 1 footpaths. I think the other thing you do need to do is to find out what category the footpath is, and that's on the website, the County Council's website, because there's 3 different categories of footpaths.
Okay, we need to look into that then as well.
Please, if you can, that would help things up with Paul, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So clear how we go on with the footpaths then.
Yeah.
The other issue is we ought to put two things. One is that document needs to be put on the website so people can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the actual document itself. And the other thing that comes from it, we ought to be kind of getting them to be used. We ought to be recommending walks or something, and that's the another job for another time, I know, but we need to be putting that on the website as well, so we can take different walks, and we could perhaps even write things about what's on the route of the walk and all kinds of things, so there's a lot that we could do on the back of this.
I've got a Cheadle leaflet if you want to go and see what they've done in Cheadle with their round wobbing walks and everything else.
Yeah, well, we have actually got walks that have been.
Peter, I was going to say, Peter, didn't Phil Rushton do it quite a while back from that perspective?
Yeah, so I think I'll write to Phil, Jane, and I'll email him and see if he's still got his original things that he's done. And
because he used to do the walking grip as well.
That's right.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. And perhaps we ought to tie that into Bagnall and Endon and Biddulph as well. Biddulph's our adjoining parish. I mean, we can't forget that. Half an Ipersley pool, or 3/4 of an Ipersley is in Biddulph.
Yeah, 9%.
Yeah. Okay, so So are we all okay with that then? There's quite a lot done there, really, and I just, it's a lot of work, and I just want to thank you all for what you've done as well. It's very good.
Can I thank them as well, Peter?
Yeah, I think we can get something from it. And that's good.
Mhm.
Next on the agenda is, looking down here, memorial bench location, I think, unless I've got it wrong. Yeah, memorial bench location. And I did say that I would go out and have a look, see if I can find anywhere. Well, I've done that. I found some places where we could put a memorial bench. But if you remember, the member of the public actually thought it'd be good to have it up a hilltop somewhere up on by the chapel. There isn't any land there. That belongs to the parish council, certainly. There is a site, which I think we'd have to talk to the chapel about. And I'm not sure they'd be keen to do that, but we ought to ask them. But there are other sites, and I'll just give you some idea of the sites where we could have a bench or several benches, because we don't just need to restrict it to one. By the Sitch Trough, down at the bottom there, there's an area ground there that we could put a bench on quite easy. We've got Bank End overlooking the village. So if you come down Bank End and just before you start to do the right turn on the left, where the path used to go over into Warmoors, there's a good spot there where you could have it and overlook the whole village. Or you can have it just as well looking over Bank End, but it's quite nice looking over the village there, I think. Millennium Garden, there's an area there against the wall. We could put a seat. Top of Job's Pool, top of Job's Pool on the other side where the bank is getting into the rocks. You could make an area there, quite nice. On Church Road overlooking the new cemetery. That's a fantastic vista. That is one of the best vistas on the village. We could put a seat there. And another interesting place which I suddenly thought about was Marshes Hill, where the cut through is. At the bottom, there's no reason why we shouldn't have a seat there. And, that would solve another problem, wouldn't it?
Kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
That's
So
the quad round it.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah, exactly. I have to make sure nobody comes down on the Range Rover while they're doing it, but still, while they're sitting on it. But yeah, so there are others as well. I mean, there's plenty of other places you could think about where you could put seats, but I think those are the most obvious. I think. I did try to think of ones that were over on the Endon side, overlooking that side, but we have got one on the Hooping Wall up at the top of Hilltop there, which overlooks Stanley. So I don't know. I think that, and there's one down. You could have one down Off Hill opposite Simcox Farm there, opposite Fernie Off Farm. There's a nice area of grass you could sit there. And if you walked up Off Hill, you could do with the seat as well. That isn't a bad idea. But anyway, there are sites on the village where we could do this, and I'm not suggesting we do all of them or any of them even. But taking on the request from the member of the public to be able to, to provide somewhere where they can put we can put a memorial on there. I think that would be a way of making this happen, I think. And of course, we got in the cemetery as well. I'm not excluding them. We've already discussed that. So yes, there are places, and that's it. But I think it's tied very much into the draft bench policy, which I think Denise is putting up here now. So this is something that we've borrowed from another local authority very close to us.
The bits in red are the prices and things like that you might want to think about. And the policy itself could be adopted at the annual meeting when you go through all the other policies. But at the moment, at this draft stage, if you can send me anything that you think needs changing or amending, or the prices are obviously very different to what was discussed before. Yeah.
Okay. So you should have also received that, and it's on the appendix. So we just need to go through that. And it says here 5 memorial plaques to be fitted to each bench. Okay, that's more than what we thought. But the bench, I think, is a bit bigger than one we thought. But I think that depends where we're putting it. So it's a policy ready written, and I think what we need to do, we need to go through it in our own time, have a read at it, and come back to the council when we approve it. Or if we approve it. So there we go. So, we need to, those are the prices. So to put a bench up with 5 things on it, so 1,100, and if we charge 220 for each one of the plaques, then that's reasonable and funds it. So it gives you an idea. So I'd like you to go away and have a read at that, and then, we'll decide what to do at the next meeting. You all okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So next item is neighbourhood plan update. And instead of me doing this, it actually should be Phil Beresford, chairman of the neighbourhood plan committee, who's sitting in with bated breath, ready to give us a riveting report about the meeting last night.
Yeah, I'm here, but I can't promise that, to be honest. Well, we had an update meeting with our ACOM representative last week, a chap called Ishak. And just to very quickly recap, our neighbourhood plan back in the day when it was started was to include site selection. Bear in mind, at this stage, we were trying to meet numbers that were put forward to Brown Edge, housing numbers which had to be met, and we thought it was a great idea, include site selection in the neighbourhood plan and allocate the sites to meet these required numbers. Moving forward quite a while actually, back in 2019, we actually had around 20 sites with landowners that had engaged with the neighbourhood plan, and these were to be forwarded to ACOM, Ishak actually, for assessment. Now, there was some confusion there. Ishak didn't actually pick up on those sites, and we waited a long time for his report to come back, only to find that most of the sites put forward weren't assessed. And it was a little bit disappointing, his report, because his report was that basically he couldn't assess the sites. And we waited a long time to hear that, because his guidelines were that he couldn't assess sites within the green belt. And as most of you know, nearly all our sites were within the green belt. So another meeting was arranged approximately 12 months ago. Linda, myself, Hannah and Ishak. We addressed the problem of the missing sites, and that was resolved. And it was agreed that Ishak could take another look at things and to speak to various people and to see if he could actually assess these sites. It's probably important to remember by now that housing numbers, due to permissions being granted, had been met. So what our sites would now be is a catalogue of, for want of a better word, probably preferential sites, so that if they come forward in the future, the parish council had an informed assessment to judge the sites on. At this point, COVID struck and everything went badly wrong as regards communications and moving forward. And it wasn't until sometime after that that Ishak got back to us, only to tell us again that sites within the green belt he could not assess. So we had a neighbourhood plan meeting late last week. Was it late last week, Peter?
No, this week, wasn't it?
Was this week, early this week? Yeah. And it was discussed, and the general consensus was that this issue of site selection was frustrating the plan in general. We'd spent a lot of time on it. We no longer had housing numbers to meet. ISAC couldn't do an assessment for us. We could do it ourselves, which would be contentious and possibly negative when it come to the referendum of the plan. So a proposal was put forward that we forget site selection, totally forget it, and concentrate on items of the neighbourhood plan that we know that we can have some serious involvement in and make some difference. So this would involve having all the policies, robust policies, so that if applications came forward, the council could cross-reference to policies and any other information gathered within the neighbourhood plan and make a judgment on the application accordingly. The proposal was completely supported by the neighbourhood plan group, and so I guess the next step would be for the council to meet at I suppose the earliest possible time, and to see if they would follow the recommendations of the neighbourhood plan group, which would be to completely forget site allocation and to move the plan forward.
So obviously we can't discuss that tonight because that proposal is not on the agenda. Okay, it has to be on the agenda before we can discuss and agree it. And we hadn't got time because the neighbourhood plan only met, was it last night or the night before? I can't remember, the neighbourhood plan committee. So we haven't had time to put it in front of the council because the agenda was already set. But this is a major difference from what the parish council has asked the neighbourhood plan committee to do. Okay, because in the past, the parish councils asked the neighbourhood plan committee to do site criteria, site selection, but it's very, very clear and absolutely totally clear that we are not going to get this done by ACOM, and that's after consultation with the district council as well. So the recommendation of the neighbourhood plan committee was for the parish council to forget about site criteria, site selection, and to come forward with their policies that would have say over that, but we wouldn't be actually identifying sites that were preferred. So that's it. Now, we aren't looking for a decision tonight because obviously it's not on the agenda. We're just giving a report from what the neighbourhood plan committee suggested the parish council should do. It's for the council to decide, not the neighbourhood plan committee. So we will do that at an appropriate meeting, or that might be the next meeting of the council anyway. So whenever that will be, I'll come on to that a bit later. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here, so I apologise for that. Has anybody got any comments about that? It's kind of disappointing because it's held us back for 2 years, isn't it, Phil? And it's almost like admitting defeat, to be honest with you. But on the other hand, just to give you some idea, I do believe, and I'm not certain about this, but I do believe there have been, since we started this process, there have been 68. Some people have said that's actually over 70 houses that have been approved in Brownedge. So, you know, there is absolutely no pressure whatsoever for it to any building for the next 15, 20 years, whatever the lifetime of the local plan is, assuming that the local plan doesn't get rewritten soon, which is another interesting point. But anyway, there's no pressure whatsoever for any development on Brownedge. Okay, so I can see what Ishak is saying and what the district council is saying. They've got no plans whatsoever for any development on Brown Edge outside the green belt, or within the green belt, should I say, outside the village. Yeah. Okay. So Keith, have you got anything just to add?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm not surprised. I do think the cards have been stacked against us in some respects.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there's some people in planning that don't believe in a fully democratic process when it comes to planning, and I think I'll just leave it at that tonight.
Yeah.
The idea that parish councils and town councils are going to take responsibility for paths, bus services, highways, rebuilding, capital projects of buying pubs, basically running the entire community services, linking up with the NHS, linking up with all these other massive authorities, taking on community responsibilities, but you can't have any involvement in planning at all. It's just the complete reverse of what is actually happening in the real world.
Yeah.
And I do not understand why some councils haven't woken up and smelt the roses. And the same thing's going to have to happen when it comes to the environment. Joe knows resistance is out there at the moment. And this, I think, we don't have the ability to do this sort of resilience against us in the environment. And in that case, we had a whole conversation about what we should be doing for housing and other developments to do with the environment, and having a policy drawn up. But again, we were told and frustrated that we can't have a policy drawn up this locally. This whole planning issue is the one thing that still sticks in your throat, basically.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. It's not fit for purpose. It doesn't work. And if you argue with it, the worst thing happens is it all goes to appeal. And has been happening with SMDC quite a lot at the moment, is that the appeal decisions overturn the decisions of even what we're doing with our local plan that was only passed 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I do think that there has to be quite, and it's not down to the pressure of developers, but developers and planners are going to have to start working with the real world.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they're not. Mm-hmm. And it's a completely undemocratic process that's out there. And we can see the result. And unfortunately, the result is what you've asked for this evening. And I don't blame anyone for doing it. It's just a very sad element that doesn't fit into the rest of what's happening within democracy in this country, or in fact across Europe. But anyway, I'm not going to. Have I preached enough now, Pete?
No, I think that kind of sums up actually how Phil and myself feel, having worked on this for so long. And it does feel like, if we keep saying, and Phil said, if we aren't careful, the neighbourhood plan is going to be out of date before we even get there. Because 3 years ago, if we'd had a neighbourhood plan in place, Brown Edge would look different now. We'd have our green open spaces. We would have a protected industrial area. We all those things would have happened, and we wouldn't have the threat of another load of houses in the middle of the village. Yeah. All those things would have been protected, and we still would have been able to have the same amount of houses. This is the thing.
And you would have had a better infrastructure.
Yeah, a better infrastructure.
Under sill. Yeah, right. And the parish council would have had more money.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening, is that they're saying they want to do one direction, and this is going 180 degrees. It's swimming uphill, this. Yeah. Anyway.
And I think you're right about the right from the very beginning, we've had we've been sneered at. That's the best way to describe it, by the district council. I don't mean the district council in their entirety. I mean, in the kind of philosophy of the planning department, sneered at that we want actually to look after our own community. It's as if it's it's too big for you. And in some ways it is. I do admit that. I mean, it's not straightforward, and we're not professional, but we do understand what the community wants more than what they do. And in some ways, and I've spoken to Joe about this, in some ways it would have been much better to them engage with us and say, right, what is it you're really wanting to do here, and why do you want that? All right, okay. Well, don't you think it'd be better doing that? If there wasn't that kind of engagement, it's been like a confrontation all along. And you know, the planning people aren't bad people. It's just that they somehow haven't got into understanding us and what we want. Anyway, we will be bringing this forward to the parish council at some point in the future, and you know, at the next meeting, in fact, and we'll be asking you to vote on. And if we don't do something, we're going to be losing. We won't end up with a neighbourhood plan at all, and that will be a shame. So. Okay, so that's just for report, really. So thanks for that, Phil, by the way.
Welcome.
Yeah. So that's the neighbourhood plan. Next item is finance and governance. So as you can see there, the next item is NatWest. So over to Denise, I think, really here.
I'm really sorry, but I've wasted everybody's time, I feel. NatWest, the NatWest business banking switch, the Co-op Bank have now rejected our application because we didn't fit the criteria. We weren't a charity or a community group, and we weren't a small business. So we're a local authority, so we sit in no man's land, and we didn't fit the Co-op's criteria. So I've spent 6 hours on the phone to them. I can't tell you how long I spent talking to them. But yeah, sorry, we've been rejected. So we're staying with NatWest. Yeah. Unless you want to go to somebody else.
Yeah, well, I think it's something else we'll at the annual meeting we'll have to look at is the way we do business. It's I mean, Denise has got to because transactions now are much more, you know, it's all electronic transactions, isn't it? You know, the days of checks are disappearing fast here, and for Denise to have to put £600 worth of, I mean, seed on her personal credit card, which is what she's going to be asking you for authorization later on, is completely wrong. It's completely wrong on a personal funding of the parish council. You know, it's just completely wrong. So we've got to find a better way of doing that. And I think I'm not asking Denise to get to engage with the NatWest at the moment. She's spent enough time with the banks, but we have got to upgrade ourselves, and also we've got to get the because we've got to get our bank mandate sorted so that all of us are authorised to sign checks and to do whatever we've got to do in the future. So that still needs to be done, because we put that off because we thought we were going to be joining the co-op, if you remember. So so there's still a piece of work that we've got to do to get square with that. I'm right there on to Denise. I've not made that up. That is right, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so next item is British Gas.
Electricity prices. We've just had another, we did this earlier on actually, and that was the playing field. This is now the cemetery. So we've got to decide on the fixed electricity prices. I know Karen helped me with this one last time. I've worked it out. I think the 2-year plan is the best deal. Can you see that, Karen? I don't know if you can work that out with your calculator.
That's what we did last time, wasn't it? The two-year
plan.
We did go for
2-year plan again. So if you
So we're all in favour of going for the 2-year plan, yeah? Okay, yep. So that's it. Okay, thank you. Okay, climate change grant. So we've already touched on that earlier. So no point in getting over that again. Thank you for that, everybody. The Sitchwell steps. Okay, so I think Denise has got something on that.
Yeah, I asked Phil Beresford for an estimate of what he thought it might cost. He has come back and said he hasn't got time to do the work. Sorry, Phil, do you want to talk about it? Phil is here, isn't he? Phil hasn't got time to do the work, but he's quoted that he thinks it would cost £30 per step for the actual brick itself, and then so the stone, and then and then the cost on top of that for the fitting or whatever the contractor would charge.
Installation, yeah. So it's got contractors' money, but that actually gives us some idea. And then we got to work out how many steps. It's probably 5 or 6 steps, I would have thought, there to get it up to the next level. So it gives you some idea of the money. So possibly here, what we ought to do is we ought to just see how much money we've got left, and if we get this grant money and then we'll have a bit of money available to us, and then we need to find a contractor to do it. Now, we ought to perhaps to find out how much he would charge. I don't know, Phil, but I think it's kind of stonework, isn't that Chris Hargreaves' remit?
I know Chris is pretty tied up. I know he's
Well, isn't everybody? But you know,
yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, the single length stone curbs, ideally, they're about 3 foot long each one. So I have bought some recently for another job, and they are about 30 quid each. But there's not a great deal of work involved, but I just haven't got time.
No.
If you just leave it with me, I'll try and I'll put the feelers out and just see if I can get any of the other lads who might be interested in doing a written quote for you.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Should
it
we,
then.
Should we work on 5/6 steps?
Yeah, 5 or 6 steps there. Yeah, I think that's what's needed. I'm looking at it. It looks about right.
Just in keeping with the others, similar
Yeah.
sort of thing.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Phil, you know that we've got one, and I'll donate that.
Yeah.
If I come across any more, I'll donate whatever I find.
That's
I'll match
great.
them in.
Thank you very much, Jane. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're on the case there. So, Joe, you wanted to speak, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to mention the fact that myself, Linda and Jeff, we've obviously got our District Council Community Initiative Fund, which will be launching for this next financial year next month. So if you want any money from one of the 3 of us towards the well steps, just let us know, because I'm sure we could maybe make a contribution if you need one as a parish council.
Yeah, I think thank you very much for that, Joe. It's well appreciated, and I think if we get round to doing these, putting these seats in, we'll have to do some groundwork as well and digging out and that for that. So that would be really useful if you could help us in that respect as well. So that's good. Yeah, thank you. So that's where we are. So yeah, Phil, if you can ask for
yeah, I'll see if I can get you.
See if you can find anybody. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any hurry for it. Like, it's one of those jobs, isn't it? But if you don't kind of plan it in, it never gets done, does it?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So next thing is the VAT refund. So
that's arrived. So we've now got that £2,769.19.
Okay.
Has arrived for that.
Okay, and then we got HMRC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Has that been paid in?
Yeah, that's been paid in. Yeah.
Okay. HMRC, fine for late payment.
Okay, so again, this goes back to banking. I apologise for this. Partially my fault. I was in contact with somebody that had got COVID and had one of those text messages which said I'd got to isolate. So after one of the meetings, I didn't send the checks out immediately. So that the paperwork was sort of not contaminated. And then because of the signing procedure at the moment where we post the checks out to one councillor who then sends them to another councillor who then sends them on to the payees, the check arrived 1 day late and we've been fined £200. So I have appealed and hopefully, but I'm very sorry.
No. That's one of these.
It's not your fault. It's the whole system we're doing that's wrong.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to. We should not be now in this process of sending checks. I mean, it's just mad. It's a health problem anyway. We shouldn't be doing it.
I said a few weeks ago to Denise, really, now that we've got Scribe, she should be able to print the list off and then just get that signed over the screen.
Exactly right.
And then what she needs to do after that is apply to the NatWest so she can do electronic payment.
Transfer. That's exactly what should happen, electronic transfer.
So we just need online banking with the NatWest.
Yeah.
If you can just speak to NatWest and ask them if our account will, I should imagine you can go online.
Yeah, you can get online banking, and also my understanding, because NatWest are quite savvy in terms of business banking, in terms of electronic business banking, you can make it so there's like a check thing, so that's one person can't authorize, it's got to be two, and all that kind of stuff. Just the same, it's all done electronically.
Yeah,
we need to be doing that, really, getting into that. If we stop in with NatWest, which I think is what we need to be doing, really. So
well, we've got the NatWest and Leaks still open, so it's handy.
It's still there, that's right. So we need to be getting on and doing that. So if you can come back to us some thoughts about how we should be doing that, Denise, after speaking to NatWest. I'm sorry about asking you to speak to them again.
Okay, and I will inform you if we get the appeal. Yeah.
I bet you will. I bet they won't let us take that fine.
No, it seems
it's only 1 day late.
Yeah, it's 1 day late, and there's a reason for it. I mean, at the moment, COVID, I mean, heck, they're chucking money at folks.
Is it for what was the payment? PAYE?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think that's, anyway.
That's harsh.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's probably only for £200 anyway, was it?
Yeah, 200.
Less than that, probably. Yeah, probably £50 actually. Yeah.
Okay. So next thing then, authorization of payments.
Just need to mention there's a mistake on the N&J tree services, which I spotted. It should actually be £1,562.40, not 20. There, so I did spot a mistake, so apologise for that.
Okay, I'm sure he won't notice. Okay. You've all had a copy of them previously.
I need to show you the agreement with SMDC, if I can put that up on screen, because that's actually an agreement that the council need to approve.
Yeah,
can I just bring that up on screen? Is everybody happy with that?
So first of all, are we all happy with those payments going out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all okay with that. Yeah, nobody. Okay, thank you. So do that one then, SMDC.
That include the seed. Is everybody happy about that wildflower meadow seed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll stop sharing that. I'll just find this other document then, and won't be a moment. Right, here we go. Let's just share this screen again now. So basically, this is the agreement that you've got with Staffordshire Moorlands District Council for commercial waste services. I checked with Mr. Bourne, and he said last year he did check a price with a private provider, and Staffordshire Moorlands did still come out a lot cheaper than an independent.
He did.
So just let me scroll down. So the actual agreement is there. At the moment, it's still got Mr. Bourne's address on there, but I have already sorted that. So the account's address is incorrect, but that's been amended.
Well,
is that yearly? That's yearly, isn't it?
Yeah.
When John looked at this last time, it was considerably a lot more from a private company.
It was nearly
twice. That's what he said, Jane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all in favour that we carry on with this arrangement. We've had no problems with them, to be perfectly fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, the next thing is the cemetery recorder report.
I've just had a note that there is a mole that has appeared in the cemetery. So that is just an additional thing which isn't on the agenda, but I thought I will mention while we're talking cemetery. So So
Well,
I
we
don't
got
know
a
if you've
road
got.
mold checked out, Denise.
And given that this is the right time of year, because it's in March that they normally put the traps out.
Yeah, I think we need to be talking to the school as well. I mean, because that's where they're coming from. Right. Anyway, we'll sort that. We need to get who's it on, don't we?
Yes.
Jason. Yeah. The mole man. The only thing you got to watch for, Denise, he has to show you proof of that he's caught the mole. So he sends it to you in the
Hanging
post.
on the gate.
No, he doesn't. He just takes photographs and sends it. So if you're a bit squeamish, you just need to know.
We had the same one for 10 years. It keeps taking the same.
keeps bringing it out. Okay, so we're all okay with getting in touch with what's his name? Yeah, with Jason. Yeah. So do you know that, Denise? Have you got details of?
Don't, but I would contact Mr. Bourne if that's okay with everyone.
I think we've changed since then. So.
Oh right, okay.
I'll send you the details. I'll send his details through. It's in the Parish magazine, actually.
Okay.
Okay, so that's that. Correspondence. Item 12. So all that is that the Staffordshire Parish Council Association are looking for Staffordshire Moorlands representatives. They've got 3 vacancies, believe it or not. So Denise thought it'd be useful for me to be on that because Moorlands is completely underrepresented. It's quite interesting really because I used to be the secretary for it nearly 50 years ago when it first started. So it's been quite interesting. We started Jack Rushton as a councillor when he was a district councillor. We started this thing off in the first place. So it'd be quite interesting to go back to it. So it needs to be the council that nominates me really. Just to let you know, I shan't be standing as chairman next time. So so we need to be looking for another chairman. So that gives me the opportunity to do this. Okay. So have we got a nomination or someone nominate me, please?
I'll nominate you, please.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a second to Karen, second there. Yeah, so thank you for that. Next thing is resident correspondence. So I can answer this really. So when we had our, we wrote back, I can't remember how it came about actually, but anyway, the resident from down High Lane picked up that we'd said that it was a main road. It was an A road, a main road. So we couldn't have any traffic calming measures on it because it's an A road. And so he wrote to me and wrote to Denise, and I replied back straight away to say that actually it's although we refer it to as a main road, actually it is a B road. Okay, it is not an A road, but it's still a main road, and it's still classed as a main road because it's gritted. And so I mean that's one of the things that I identify it as being a main road. So, but it is, it hasn't changed. Its status hasn't changed. It is still, a B road. I don't think there's anything else to say on that. Denise, is there? No.
I was going to ask Keith at some point if there was road classifications other than, on a road map where it does say A or B. I wondered if the county council had got another classification structure for roads.
The answer is yes. If they think they don't want any traffic coming on it, they'll call it a main thoroughfare or main route between places. And so they don't need to all be A roads, particularly in urban areas. So as it's between Stoke and Endon and is now classified as 30 miles an hour all the way, I would turn around and they would probably turn around and say, well, it's an urban main route now. So you'll have to have it now, chaps, I'm afraid, and chapesses. You'll have to make do with it as it is. Yep. And it's the main, either end of it's the main way in and out of Brown Edge. So if it was a side road or a road to a smaller village or something like that, then that might be different. But I'm afraid that this is the problem with Clay Lake project, is that they don't like changing the speed limit. And that was what they fought for 35 years, that we managed to overturn in that project to get it to 30 miles an hour all the way. It's now down to us to enforce that speed limit, which is what we've been discussing earlier in the meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. So the next item is C, residents offer to donate 3 bouquets for recognition of volunteers during the COVID pandemic. So this is just an offer. I'll say just, it's a significant offer from a member of the public who feels that we ought to be recognising people who've helped in the community during the pandemic. And I think that's a nice, genuine offer to the parish council to do that, which raises a wider issue, which I'd like to bring up on items under notice, item 13. So I'm not looking for any decision here on this, other than we ought to thank this member of the public for this offer. But I think there's things that we should be, we ought to be doing, which is what my item on notice, item B, 13B. Yes, Keith.
I just say, I did mention it earlier, the Star Award system. I don't see why you couldn't expand that and just have your own Star Awards associated with that. And maybe some of those people then could be put forward into the district and county council's system. Yeah. So I would hope and suggest that you list some people that you want to recognise for their work in the voluntary sector within the parish, and put them forward for that. And regardless of what happens at the county level, you celebrate their work. I can see it's on the event. I'll probably have to go just before then, but I'll be very happy to help you out with sorting all that out if you want. But anyway, okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about that actually under 13B as well. So next item is the residents' complaint. HGVs using Hilltop to Ladymore Lane request to introduce a weight and width restriction to stop damage to the edges of the road surface and damage to the walls. So this is the resident. That wall was rebuilt by Jock, as you probably remember, sort of about, I don't know, perhaps about 5 years ago. And this is what's happening. This is right outside Doug's place at the bottom of Clulow's Bank, just before it starts to go up to Brick Bank. And you can see wagon there has been right alongside, and it's pushed the wall in. And this was a really substantial rebuilt wall. And when you think about it, it's not surprising. The wagon's going down, that's a single track road going down there. It's a single track road. And, very often, look at that. I mean, this is happening all over. This isn't just on Brown Edge, by the way. This is happening all over the flipping place. But, you can see there what's happening. The roads are being widened by these large trucks coming down. And I know they've got to do the job, and I know they've got a place to go, and et cetera, but they are going on roads that are not built for this kind of vehicle. And I think, we've already discussed it, we've already raised it, but this just gives you an example of how challenging this is for everybody who lives there. And, I don't know what would happen if 2 of these trucks came at the same time. and met down Clueless back, well, what would happen? I honestly think somebody would have to come and recover one and drag it out, because they couldn't pass.
No.
And a gentleman on a bike, forgotten. This is last week. Rang me up, and I ought to have made note of his name, but I wasn't feeling very well last week, so I didn't. But he rang me up and said he'd been knocked off. No, he hadn't been knocked off his bike. That's not true. He'd had to jump off his bike because the wagon kept on coming down and didn't even see him there. Now, that's obviously a concern, this. And just at that point at the bottom, outside Doug Wardle's piece of ground there is no, you couldn't get a fag packet at the side of these wagons going down. This is literally as wide as the road. So.
And then even when it gets to down off hill or going up off hill.
Yeah.
The other day, there was a car parked outside Jude Johnson's.
Yeah.
The Bassage truck was going up the hill.
Yeah.
Didn't see or notice there was 3 cars coming down the hill. So they're all on top of one another. And the Bassage truck had to reverse all the way back past the junction and go back to the chip shop.
Goodness gracious.
Can't be reversing in that great big truck down that little junction.
No. These roads aren't designed for them. And I don't know. I think, whether we should.
But if we are writing to Bassett, then maybe they will change their route back to whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things we could do is actually send this photograph to Bassett's and ask them to, it's starting to cost money. As soon as you start to think it's going to cost money, then, it might help in the case for them to for not use this route. So yes, Adrian.
Yeah, just wanted to ask a question as well. I know a lot of the traffic that's coming through is Bassett's, but I've also seen a lot of traffic going through to the waste transfer station. Is that a legal waste transfer station at last schedule or not? Because there was an 8-wheeler that was very heavily loaded in there on Sunday. So just as you sort of go past Colmore, going up Colmore Lane on the left, where the Bassett trucks are turning into, it now looks like they are seriously gearing up with massive waste transfer, crushing machines and all kinds of things. And I'm not sure that, is it a licensed waste transfer site? Because there seems to be a lot of activity on a Saturday and Sunday, which would lead me to believe that that probably isn't.
I have wondered what's going on there.
They've got crushing machines and everything, Karen. I went in and had a nosy, and they got an 8-wheeler tipper wagon in there on Sunday tipping with no operator's name, license or anything on it. And I hadn't got my camera to get the registration number, but it wasn't a licensed vehicle.
Right. Okay. So this is raising another issue then, which is, linked to this. So we ought to be talking to our district council over this matter. Yes, Keith.
This comes back to a mixture and between highways and planning.
Yeah.
And permissions. I don't think as a parish council, you or any single parish council, even a collective of parish councils, is going to have much weight. I suggest that the way forward on this would be through the one you've just joined, which is the Parish Council Association, the parish assembly while highways are there, because I think highways will support you in this. I think it could be one of the very rare cases where parish councillors and district councillors with county councillors and the highways department actually work together in a constructive way to make sure that when planning decisions are made about the use of facilities in the countryside, that the idea of not just can you get in and out of the site isn't sufficient, because it is breaking up all the roads all around everywhere, Bagnall, Brown Edge, all across my division. It's a complete mess.
Yeah.
And the same goes to some extent, and the farmers aren't going to like me for saying this, but you know, some of the vehicles that they now use and rent and use as well are inappropriate for the size of roads that have been there for centuries, and they're not wide enough or too wide for these roads. And the breaking down of all the sides and everything else, the amount of muck and filth. And then the county council and everyone else is meant to pay to repair all the roads.
Yeah.
And there's something has to break on this, because it's just becoming a complete mess and dangerous. The amount of debris that's left in the road, the amount of ruts and everything else. So I personally think that what you need to do, for me anyway, and I will see what can happen at the next parish assembly meeting, because I'll be chairing that. But I don't know what Joe thinks about trying to help out, because there should be some rules and regulations in planning that will prevent these sites, as Adrian's just said, of just having permitted development rights, which means that they can quadruple the size of the vehicles that are going in and out of the sites, and basically sod the consequences up and down the roads. That seems to be what's happening. And there's we had a whole thing at planning committee last time, or the time before, it was about a site where they had a load of tankers that were being stored, and they weren't meant to process them. It wasn't meant to be a working yard. It was just somewhere where they could store them for an occasional thing. But they just ignored that and carried on using it as a normal yard where it was cleaned and it was accessing, and the trucks were moving in and out on a daily basis. Yeah. And it was breaking down all the B roads and even unclassified roads that sometimes these things are accessed through. And I do think it's a really big problem, this. I really do, you know. And then obviously they're not paying the right business rates, they're not doing anything else. So the whole infrastructure that's around these places, it's the rest of us poor old muggings that are injured, you know, get damaged, if it were, and end up having to pay for it.
So Keith, if we write to you to see if we can get this on the agenda for the parish assembly, would that be a good thing? Yeah. Right,
and if you send me a letter that's generic enough, and maybe include, I don't know whether you want to send one to Joe as well on that side for planning. I think Joe's got his hand up, so I'm sure he'll come back on. I could then take it forward to David Williams, because there is a review of what we're going to do about the winter programme, because it's becoming quite evident with the number of reports of damage to roads. We've had some of that round here down Chapel Lane and places like that. It's quite clear that these roads can't take even remotely what's going on. And it's been exacerbated because of all the smaller trucks and vans that are now using deliveries due to the virtual thing, which I don't think is ever going to be removed. So the number of vehicles, size of vehicles is all going up, you know.
Joe.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, it's as Keith said, it's completely out of control, this situation is, and it's got worse over lockdown, because obviously more people have been out and about walking and cycling, and you know, it's absolutely terrible down that part of the parish. And obviously, don't forget, you've got all the fly tipping as well that quite often happens. I'm not saying all of them do, but quite a few of them do fly tip, unfortunately, and that makes it, you know, much more difficult for litter pickers and everything. It's us that have to pick up the mess. It's not like they pay the district council a fee or the parish council a fee for litter picking, is it? You know, they never contribute the costs for, you know, the litter picking equipment and all of that. But what I might be able to do is I might be able to speak to the enforcement team within the planning department about some of this, to raise some of the concerns. So I don't know if Denise, if you're able to perhaps write me an email about the discussions we've had tonight, and then copy you into my emails and contact with the planning enforcement team about this, see if we can make any inroads maybe.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Joe. So 2 things then from that, three things should say. We'll write to Keith officially to try and get this on the agenda for the parish assembly. We'll write to Joe to see if he can raise this with the enforcement officer, or so to say, we ought to write to the enforcement officer ourselves actually and copy Joe in on that, so that we can see if we can find out what's actually happening on this site, bearing in mind that this site is not in Brown Edge, so we don't want to be interfering on other people's patch, but it is having an impact on our village. Okay, so we need to be careful that we don't, and I'm not sure whose patch that is there, across there, whether that's Biddulph, I suspect.
Yeah, it could be Ian Lawson's area or something like that. Not sure. Yeah. But,
So anyway, we need to, we just need to.
Can you mention the cabinet at county as well, please? Not just the parish assembly.
Yeah. Sure,
so I can take it through to highways as an issue, because I'm
Yep.
sure that there's going to be some review over the summer, I hope. Thank you.
So another thing, we just need to write to the resident to say that we're going to raise this with the district council and the enforcement officers, and we're going to write to the truck people directly as well. So at least they know we're onto it. Okay. So I've got, bearing in mind the time here, so we want to try and get finished on time. So the next thing is items on notice. Councillor Wright would like to move that the council agrees to ask the county council if it's possible to have a permanent ban on banners on village railings. So, sorry, I've lost you there, Karen, you're there, so sorry.
Yeah, it was further to the banner that the Indian restaurant and you know, all that a good couple of months ago now. And I was just thinking, do we have like a permanent ban on banners? Because especially with the speed, the traffic are coming up and down the road now as well, and they just block off the small children. I realised that sometimes the school put a banner on there, but the carnival committee, they use either entry of the village and put their banners on some wooden structure or something, don't we? So there is other options for anybody that wants to do any kind of advertising like that, like the school, for example. But it isn't a place for people who are running businesses to put advertisements on our railings without any. There's no control on them. Anybody could go there and just put one on. They don't have to ask. They do it to advertise their own business.
Yeah.
I mean, the school are a different matter. So surely, you know, the carnival committee might borrow them their pieces of wood or whatever they do at Christmas time and at carnival time.
Yeah, I think you're right, Karen. To start with, I don't think the county council would ever give permission to anybody. So de facto, it is, you know, it shouldn't be there. It is a police matter as well because of obstruction of the highway. So you could say it's actually illegal for it to be like that. Keith, yeah.
It's another letter time by the sounds of it. Sorry about this, Denise. But basically send that through. What I did, it's very similar to people crossing crossroads diagonally in Knipersley. I had to come up with a little tiny sign. I've designed it. My sign at Knipersley Crossroads. I could do the same. I could do the same here. Brown Edge, don't want your banners here.
Yeah.
Sign.
Well, I just don't want to fix that to the railings. That's any problem else. We're putting a sign on to say you can't put a sign on.
It will be this big on the railings and fill up the space to stop. No, I'm being.
So I think what we need to do really here is shouldn't we write to the county and just say we will remove it?
I think that might be a different issue. I think the idea of putting something on there, or at least looking at putting something on there that might actually just run along one of the railings lengthwise, so it's no longer, and just say that no banners at this location, 2 or 3 or 4 of those.
Let's see what the county say.
These are the things. Yeah. If I can do that, then there's no, you know.
Let's see what they say about it, but we certainly don't want anything there, do we, in future?
But I'm quite inventive of inventing signs, and in Bagnall, I had to try and do a galloping horse, but I wasn't very good at drawing that one, I could tell you. But anyway, okay. Another story. Sorry, I'll stop.
We're all okay with that. We're going to make that happen. Yeah. Next thing is this. I would like to move that the council supports an event that's post lockdown to dedicate the clay tribute. I don't know exactly what it is, but the sculpture, and to thank the community for their contribution to help others during the COVID pandemic. Now, the reason why I say this is we did say that we were going to have like a ceremony, which we couldn't have because of the COVID thing, an unveiling of the plaque or whatever it is, and we're going to have John to do that. That was the suggestion. And I think we ought to be making this a wider kind of thing now, for just a thank you for everybody. That's because there are actually loads and loads and loads of people who've supported, you know, throughout the COVID thing. It isn't just one or two people. That's the only bit I was a bit worried about when we're putting stars out there. There are actually loads of people who've done stuff. And in a way, we ought to be just, if it's early on, it's like a way of saying thank you. We're through this now. And I just think we ought to be kind of, you know, celebrating the fact that we've managed to achieve what we've managed to achieve, which is an incredible amount, to be honest with you. So that's what I was suggesting. And the earlier that we do it, when we come out, when we are allowed to have groups together again, I think that would be like almost an official ending to what we've gone through. You know, that's what I was suggesting anyway. So don't know.
We could have like local NHS heroes that live in our village, like
all sorts of
Jane
things like that.
and Jenny and my Emily.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm certainly no hero, Karen. you
Well,
just you go to work and do whatever you've got to do.
I know you do. I know you do, but when I listen to Emily's tales of when she's on the COVID ward giving dialysis to somebody in one bed, and in the next bed she's listening to somebody on an iPad, you know, basically saying goodbye because they don't know whether they're going to come off the ventilator. It's just like, God, you go to work and you do all that. So you all deserve recognition.
And even if the people weren't there, what I want it to be is, even if they aren't there, it's like a recognition of everything that's gone in, all these contributions, some of which we'll never know about.
No.
Some of which we'll never hear about. No. But I'm sure the whole village is grateful for what's happened. I'm sure, you know, all the activity. So that's what I was thinking. And, you know, I'll organise it and I'll do it all, and we'll have it in the village hall, and it won't cost anything and all that kind of stuff. It's just a way of getting folks together again after all this. And if we make it into a formal thing, that's all the better.
Can I just say, I think how well the village has been supported by the first responders.
Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Because they've done the untold, you know, going and getting prescriptions to people, checking on people on a regular basis. And I know that Julie Bailey has done a hell of a lot of work. She has kept that going.
I know. And to see them putting stock into Keith's, it's just absolutely, when they were running out of food. I mean, we forget they got no food in. They were running out of food. They got it all downstairs, but they hadn't got the staff to put it on the shelves, and people hadn't got no food. That's what they were doing. And
they were going delivering groceries. They were going to the chemist. You know, and they got certain people they were checking on week in, week out.
Just calling on them to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
So these things just need to be said, and that's what I just want to do. Want to make it so that we've got an evening, and even if we don't mention these people, it's those people that aren't mentioned that we're all there for.
I think this is the thing. You can be in a situation where you can actually offend people, can't you?
Yes, that's right.
You know,
yeah. So that's really what I was saying. And I think if we can get the, the sculpture kind of dedicated, if that's the word as well, at the same time, then we can do it. So I don't know. Do you agree with that kind of thought process or whatever? Yeah. Yes. I'll organise it all. You know, don't worry. I'll do all that and make it happen. And we'll have it, like I say, we'll have it in the village hall. We shan't have a band on or anything like that, nothing like that. But the bar will be on, and it'll probably be the first week we're open and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, people can come and let their hair down a bit, and just kind of relax and talk to people again at the first kind of do. And I'm getting quite emotional about it now because it makes me feel quite good. So let's see if we can do it anyway. And
we can have some tea and cakes as well.
Yeah, you can have tea and cakes. Yeah, good idea.
You can make the cakes.
Very happy to. Very happy to.
Well, we'll hold you to that, Joe.
Well, Peter, if you want.
Okay, so we'll try and make that happen. Okay, items for the attention of other local authorities then. Matters for the district council. I think we've raised everything we got to do there. And matters for the county council. I think we've talked about lots of things during the evening for that. Yeah. That's
Can I
very
just say
good.
goodbye then at this point?
Yeah,
Just,
no worries.
I know
Thank you
that's
very much, Keith.
everyone. And if you
Bye.
talk to me nicely, I know some idiot that has a special effects company as well. So
I
you
know. I'm going to
yeah.
talk to you
But
later. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, may the 6th be with you. So I'm not going to say any more. But
I know. Don't worry, it will.
Hey up, look, he's drinking already. Look, he must be feeling better.
Keith, just before you go, I've got
Oh,
a little
yeah.
update from Sarah. Can I just give you a little update from Sarah?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just let me find it. Sorry, it won't come on my screen.
Go
on.
I've got too many screens open.
Oh, I can tell you what she said because she sent the.
Can you tell us?
Email. Yeah, what she said is, if the topic comes up, all the hugs in a box are being delivered to single or widowed and elderly people on the village now. The school children have received lots of replies back and are writing back again. It's been a great success.
Brilliant.
And has really brought the community together. Some of the stories of how it has lifted spirits are really lovely.
Yeah.
So I can tell you some of the things that have been going on, and it really has brought the community together in this respect.
But don't let my mother hear Sarah calling her elderly. I don't think she'll appreciate that.
I know. Well, Jenny's another one.
Yeah, I did think that, Jenny, but I wasn't going to say it.
Well, there you go.
Well, there's some days I do feel.
Yeah. I do think, and this is Sarah should be put forward to the Lord Lieutenant's system, shall we say? If that comes up and gets put in, I think that's something that perhaps someone should look into from the parish perspective.
I can't do it. I've obviously got to.
Just leave the naming bits blank and I'm sure someone else will fill them in. But no, I do think that's good. And there's a meeting after March the 11th, and that topic still hasn't gone away for the whole county. So that's still something I'm working on. Right up until the election, I'll still keep trying to push that because I think it's just such a brilliant idea. So
I do understand that a couple of schools in Lincolnshire have picked up on it and started to use it as well now.
Yes.
But it's been a two-way communication taking place, and they've had some of these people who don't all, a couple of the girls, my mother-in-law, Janet's mum did one and mentioned that she got these grandchildren at the school, and the children have been to the school, and now a great grandchild's at the school. And anyway, they worked out who it was. So they worked out it was Pepper there, my granddaughter's there. And so they've been saying, it's like got a communication going.
Yeah.
And, letters have been going backwards and forwards now. And it's fascinating. Ken Bedson's was another person, and he sent pictures to the school of when he was going around on the, taking them around on the.
It's a great way to teach history as well, from the side all the way through, and gives people a real solid basis of what they believe is the community from the past to the current place.
Exactly.
And I think this event you're talking about, the old idea of remembrance, all these other things, it's all tied together. Without that identity, including the well-dressing events, all these other things, I just think that's that is really what we're all here for. That's community, and I think that one of the reasons why the community's reacted the way it has is because that it's partly hidden, and I think COVID has brought a lot of this out into the open. And Jonathan, who's the cabinet lead, is very interested in taking this forward. He's just finished the special send strategy. So we are going to meet up, and hopefully that will be pushed forward. And we may even get the NHS and others involved in the whole process. So I think it's very positive what might happen on that.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you again for everybody. I'll leave you at this point and say goodbye. I have other things I need to do, and there we go.
Thanks.
And thanks a lot. Cheers, Joe. See you soon. Okay. See you,
Goodbye.
everyone.
See you.
Bye. Bye.
We have
Cheers.
just got a couple of things to go through here. So the first one is a planning application from Mr. Miller at Bank End, Fairview Bank End, Brown Edge, a proposed new detached dwelling. So I've got to.
Have we had this one before?
Don't think so.
Well, this is, it was rejected, wasn't it? And then this is the.
Yes.
the new
Yeah.
proposal.
New
Yeah.
proposal.
Do we know what's different on it from the last one?
It's got chimneys on, and then they've moved it. They've moved it slightly as well,
Yeah.
and they've made more car parking.
Yeah. If you look, it's much more in keeping. It looks more like the old one.
Old style.
Yeah.
Why was it rejected? Do we know?
Because it didn't have chimneys.
Yeah.
It was rejected because it didn't have chimney.
Yeah. It wasn't.
That
in
was
keeping.
one of the reasons. There's
Didn't
three
match.
reasons. It didn't
it
have
doesn't-
chimneys. I read it just earlier on. I can't remember now. Didn't have chimneys, and something about it was too close to the highway, I think, and
Yeah.
something to do with the parking.
Yeah.
Is that the area that's currently fenced off?
Yeah. That was the area that's. I believe, still believe, is common land, but was taken away
Yeah.
from the parish council.
Yeah, because when I was a kid and I used to come up here, that was just that didn't seem to belong to a property. And even when I first came up here to live, I didn't think it did. And then all of a sudden it was fenced off. So
Yeah, there's no question. It's on.
It's common ground. It is.
It's on Mr. Miller's deeds. There's no question about that. I don't think there's any doubt in that. But there's a lot of history in it. But anyway, the point is, it belongs to Mr. Miller, and he's put in an application for that piece of ground, which used to be maintained by the parish council. It's out of our hands. It was decided by the county council, which I think is a. But anyway, that's by the by. It's just my personal views about it. But he's quite entitled to do it. I'm not going to go with him. Like, he's quite right to do what he's done. So, application for house. Have we got any views about that?
I think the views were when we opposed it the first time. Now it's gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks still. I mean, to me,
He's amended it, hasn't he?
It's, you know, say what you want about it, but you can't say it doesn't ain't in keeping with the other property now, can you?
No.
doesn't take or restrict any view when
No.
you're coming up the road, does it at all?
No, it doesn't. It's okay.
I think that was part of the rejection last time, you know.
Too close to the road, wasn't it, Karen? I think.
Too
Yeah.
close to the road, but
Yeah.
there was also, it ruined the landscape, as it were.
It was the line.
Yeah.
It'll stick out of the line, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it won't now.
It won't now because it's in line with the other building.
Yeah. So I think, okay, so can we take a vote on it? Are we in favour of this, or? So shall I ask a different way? All those in favour, could you please show? Nobody in favour? I'll put my hand up. No, I don't know. So there's only one. So, okay then. So are there any amendments?
Still going back to the drawing, I still don't think it follows the line, does it exactly?
No, I don't.
If you go back to that drawing, Denise, the green one.
It clearly says on the drawing, though, not to scale.
Yeah, but if you look at, so look how the building doesn't sit square with what is currently Bug's Garage, and it still sticks out from the corner of Bug's Garage, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, no, because that Bug's Garage comes further out. That's the actual building itself.
Yeah.
His garage comes further out.
Yeah, it does. But if you were looking at the line of the building.
Well, I can't see how that's. I can't see how that's got anything to do with it. Because he could put a blooming garage up on the front of there if he wants to. You know, there's nothing to stop that, is there? It's his land.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd prefer it be green grass. I'll be honest with you. I find it really bad. But but you know, it's what it is.
Just seems like a very odd place for a house when that's been grass for a very long time.
There'll be another one next door to it, I would suspect. But you know, it's just it feels difficult, but you know, it doesn't feel right. But I can't see any reason to me why we should be objecting to it.
Well, yeah, why we should oppose it?
No, and there probably isn't, is there, in all fairness?
No.
But
you might not agree with it, but
No,
you've got no grounds to oppose it.
No,
No.
that's the back. So, you know, that's looking from the garage. Nobody's going to be looking at that. So I prefer it being stone, but you can't insist on that because the other houses all around aren't stone.
No.
So, you know, there's nothing you know.
There's no precedent on Brown Edge anyway, is there?
No, it's a mishmash.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter anyway, because we don't have any weight, do we? The district council do what they want to do.
Well, planning do.
That's what I mean, yeah. Planning.
Yeah. I tend to agree, Karen.
I don't think we've got any
I don't think
valid objections to put forward on it.
No, he's amended any objections that we had. He's amended it.
Yeah, it's
what else can you
set
expect?
further back.
Yeah. So he's done what he's supposed to, isn't he?
Yeah. That's what it is.
It is what it is. I think the other thing what we said was it's overdevelopment of the site, but when you look at other houses that have gone up, namely one opposite me here, it certainly isn't overdevelopment, is it, compared to that? So, okay, so I'll ask again: are there any, any objections?
No, I've got no objections.
No objections, right? So we'll put it down as no objections then, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. So next thing then, matters arising pertaining to issues in the parish for on the next agenda. So these are a couple of things that we want to be just putting on the agenda for next, which I'll just tell you about. This is to decide the policy in the event of the death of a senior figure. It's something that we should be having, I've already got. So we're going to have to deal with that. And also to receive and adopt the policy suggestions by the neighbourhood plan, which is what we talked about earlier. Okay, so those are two things that we need to be bringing to the council at some point. The first item will need to be brought for the council in confidential business. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Because of its nature, it needs to be brought to the council in confidential business. Okay, and that's not my decision, by the way. That's the decision that's been made by the Society of Local Clerks. Okay, so we will need to do that soon rather than wait at the next council meeting. Okay. So Denise and myself will look for a suitable time, and we will probably have to have a special meeting for that in confidential business. Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, then I think we'll close the meeting. It's a bit late, but thank you very much for sticking with us till 10 past. I was hoping to get it finished a bit earlier, but failed to do that, I'm afraid. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and see you soon.
Okay, Peter, can you just stay on 2 seconds or just for a conversation? Please?
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Jane, if that's okay, because I need to end this meeting and then I'll come back to you. I'll tell you why later on.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
I missed half the meeting at the beginning.
In a minute, Jane, I've just got to stop this and spare with me just a second.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, blimey. Sorry, Duck, I'll be with you in just a second.
Yeah, that's fine. It's only a quick one. It was just something that I thought I might have missed and I might have been able to help with.
Probably will.
Probably not. Are we still on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we stopping the YouTube?
I'm trying